the UN Habitat Executive Director, Maimuna Mohammed. She's our champion. Okay, but I'm glad that she still mentioned at the international level about GRPB, so we are very happy. And then in terms of our methodology, our method, our approach on the ground. So if you see the way the budgeting is done, is we have like 4 phases. So at the planning stage, we have a 2-level consultation with the people. At local government level, we do a budget survey where the local government distribute to the people for them to choose what kind of project, what kind of program, what kind of budget that we wanted to. So this year, they will distribute the budgeting for next year. So we're already in the process now for 2019 budget, for example. And then at the level of implementation, there's the engagement with the community. We will normally will do 3 kind of approach. One is the survey to find out the background of the community, and then we do the focus group discussion with the community. So with the community, we also want to know issues that they face at their community, and from them we ask how to overcome it. So it's their project, so they feel very open heart to accept this project because the voice are heard through the participatory process on the ground. And then in terms of so the process of participatory when we go on the ground with community is more to fill in the practical needs of the community. So how to live happily with a better environment. We also, in terms of GRB, gender responsive approach, we do a strategic needs. For example, in the focus group discussion with the women, sometimes the issue of domestic violence came up. So what we did last time was we organized a workshop on violence against women awareness, so that the women know where to turn to. There's a strategic needs where we try to shift the cultural structure on the ground.
Sorry, you can bring it to me.
Okay, and then because of that also, we have been invited to share our approach on the ground in other countries. Okay, in terms of, so I continue?
No, just
the first one.
Final statement.
Oh, final statement. So basically, what we doing in Penang, it's we are the first state that localized PB and also gender responsive budgeting. It was not new. It was being introduced at the federal level in 2004 for gender responsive budgeting, but we in 2012 the first state that localizing it. So we see this product, gender responsive, one of the accelerator to attain sustainable development in terms of people well-being, in terms of environment and also social. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. We will circle back to some of those issues later. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ming from China, Chengdu, and I think the participatory budgeting practice in Chengdu, China is very known to the world. But I will share with you some of the numbers.
Ming from China, Chengdu.
Talking about Chengdu, it's actually a metropolitan area with more than 20 million people, and about 7 million of them live in the rural villages. The other rest about 1.4 million in the urban districts. So since the end of the 2008, the participatory budgeting policy is implemented by the municipality, that they will allocate some of the public resources directly to the villagers and entitle the villagers to make decisions directly with what projects and how much money they would like to invest in their own village-level public services. And this policy expanded to the urban neighborhoods in 2012. So, since 2008 to 2011, last year, the total budget is estimated around 1.4 billion US dollars, with an average budget of 150 to 200 million each year. And more than 1 million citizens could participate directly in the decision-making, monitoring, and evaluation of these participatory budgeting projects. And I could also make an estimation about there is more than 100,000 PB projects that have been implemented since 2008 in more than 4,000 villages or urban neighborhoods in Chengdu. And 80% of this budget goes to infrastructures like the village roads, road pavements, street lights, sanitation, flood control, irrigation system for training on the villagers. I think another very unique thing about the participatory budgeting in Chengdu is that it's a local innovation. It's not some kind of projects promoted by the World Bank, by the UN, or by some international foundations, donors. So it could last for nearly. So we are now in the ninth year of this practice, and still ongoing. And this year we are discussing and negotiating with local governments to allow more free spaces to mobilize local people, and they have their own decision makings to make their own regulations on how the PB could go and the defined procedures. So all the PB budget from Chengdu comes from two levels of government, from the municipality level and from district level. The average population in each district is about, it could vary from 1 million to 5 million. So there is a policy and a local law that support and guarantees the mechanisms for local citizens to participate. So this is very unique in China. Okay, and the biggest challenge I think in China is that the state power is too overwhelmingly everywhere. It penetrates from central level down to the local level. So the local villagers, actually, I think we have some problem like lack of transparency, access to information, and data capture, and lack of the capacity of citizen organizations. So if we could achieve more on the capacity buildings, and we could learn from these some other practices in Asian cities, I think we have a lot we could do. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Looking now at the global perspective, I'd like to invite Anya from the International Observatory of Participatory Democracy.
Thank you, John. Well, I'm happy to see that the room is full, so I think that's the PV interest in the World Urban Forum. So, well, I want to talk about three points. We don't have a lot of time, so I will be a little faster. First of all, about the IOPD, to introduce what is exactly the IOPD. Then, if I'm available, if someone has any question or want more information, then I also want to talk about the PB in Spain, how it was evolved, and finally, if I have time, a little bit about my city, Barcelona, and how the citizen participation is organized there. So about the IOPD, the International Observatory on Participatory Democracy was born in 2001. It was a project of the European Union of cooperation between Europe and Latin America, and the main project was to create local observatories in the cities to monitor, evaluate, and to implement policies of local democracy, like PB, for example, or other practices of participation in the cities. So the project works as city-to-city cooperation. So it was both cities work together with academics and with civil society to reinforce all the practice of citizen participation. In 2006, the European project finished, but the majority of the cities who were involved in this project really wanted to continue with the project. So finally, we decided to working with UCLG, the United Cities and Local Governments, who is the main world organization of local governments. So since 2006, we were working with them. And basically, the AOPD is a network of local governments, regional governments, research centers like foundations, universities, and also NGOs, the civil society, who's engaged in commitment to reinforce the local democracy. Basically, with the idea of this, the basic point of democracy is that citizens are the pillar of democracy. So citizens have to be engaged, have to be the channels to participate. So it's our basic point, and we're working to try to find better ways to engage people. So basically, our activities are, we organize a yearly conference. This year will be, my minute of publicity, will be in Barcelona next November. So we are all invited to participate in this event. It's a big moment where we share all the experiences. We also have an award of best practice of citizen participation that Chengdu won in 2014, and then as a special mention too. It's an award who looks to recognize best practice in citizen participation that local and governments are implementing, like participatory budgeting, for example, of course, one of the main experience we have. And we also finally have in our website, like our research case studies. We have a recopilatory of publications, documentations, and what it's basically we're doing the work of observatory. So another point about participatory budgeting in Spain. I think it's just for going very fast. I think it's 4 big moments, like after the experience of Porto Alegre and the expansion in Brazil. Some municipalities of Spain began to introduce the participatory budgeting in the finals of the 90s and the first years of the 2000s. And it was different municipalities. We have Sevilla, which is a very big city, but also small and medium cities. So it's not a problem of size. And with different colors, but more political colors, but mostly the left-wing municipalities. And these first PB were more non-mandatory, so no bidding. It's only consultory process. Then there were more cities who joined the PB, and it was more cities who implemented them. But one of the points was, for example, when it was a change of governments, the PB was falling. Really a problem, a lack of institutionality of this process. And then as you may suppose now, in 2008, there started a big crisis economic, and Spain was very damaged with the crisis. So a lot of PB were cut, and the crisis was not so economic, there also was social and politics. And from this crisis emerged movements, and a lot of, the 15 May of Spain, the movement in the square. So it was no political movements. And since 2015, the last municipal election, there was no municipal governments. A lot of them emerged from this citizen movement. And now all these cities are doing again PBs. So we have Madrid, we have Zaragoza, a lot of cities are doing PBs. And I want to remark with the digital platform, Okay, so I finished just with Barcelona, what does it mean? The main idea is that PBs are emerging, and the use of technology, I think it's very important, not to combine online and offline participation. And finally, just to finish with Barcelona, the actual government of Barcelona has a really a political commitment with the participation, and the system of political participation that they are thinking. It's a regulation was approved 3 months ago, and this regulation has been three points principal. It's the public consultations. So the municipal can make public consultations, the commissions, permanent commissions, council for everything, and finally the direct votation. And with PB you have some little experience, but I don't have time.
Thank you, Andrea. We have 2 colleagues from Russia. I'd like Vladimir, would you like to start?
Yes.
First of all, I would like to say our term, initiative budgeting. The initiative budgeting is an umbrella brand that consists a variety of different practices of involving judgment citizens in the budget process, united by common stimulation of public participation in identification and selection of projects financed by budget expenditure, and subsequent control in the implementation of the selected projects. Today, initiative budgeting has proved itself to be a significant social phenomenon in Russia. The number of implemented small projects increased by 2 or 3 times every year. In 2016, there was about 9,000 of them. And second one, Russia is a federal structure, administrative and also budgeting structure. The majority of IB projects resolve local issues within the competence of local authorities. In the first place, creation of living environments, then local roads, sidewalks, water supply, cultural sites, memorial places, and so on. But the budget of municipalities are scarce, and nowadays most of funds for project of initiative budgeting, more than 75%, come from regional governmental budgets. And now the most idea for us, most goal for us, to receive money from federal budget for this project. It's a big deal for us. It's a main goal for us. And I suppose that maybe in next year we'll receive some money from the federal budget of the same. Due to the fact of that significant amounts of funds are given out from the federal budget, the issue of establishing a system of state regulation and measures of state support that may be more important, the measures of state support for practices of citizen participation is particularly important for us. And third one, initiative budgeting was included in the state program, management of public finance of Russian Federation. It's a precedent for us because it's a state program, federal state program, and twice next year the upper chamber of Russian Parliament to discuss the problem of participatory budgeting with us, of course. And now it's a very useful cooperation between us and our deputies in Parliament. For Ministry of Finance, initiative budgeting became a part of improving the efficiency of budget expenditure of Russian Federation, and is one of the fields of Ministry of Finance of Russian Federation activity. Today, IB initiative budgeting developing in 50 subjects of Russian Federation from 85 total. 50 from 85, most part of Russian subject of Federation. In several subjects, the amount of funds given out for the projects of initiative budgeting is more than 1% of the original budget. Few subjects, and maybe most important thing for us that Ministry discuss the issues of integration of the policy in budget transparency and improving the level of budget literacy in terms of programs of initiative budgeting, which will allow to achieve synergetic effects in the development of practices involving citizen participation. And for us, there's this innovation, integration between openness of budget, between budget literacy and initiative budgeting on the base of initiative budgeting activities. Very important. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. Thank you. I would like to ask Lev to also share a little bit about Russian experience.
Thank you. Well, I'm here. I work in European University in St. Petersburg, and I'm here to talk about the St. Petersburg experience in PPE, which is a little bit weird because St. Petersburg is in the European part of Russia, so technically it's not Asian. But we have Barcelona here, so I feel fine now. Our project is fairly new. It started now. We have the 3rd year of implementation. implementation, and we have not like these significant numbers as China does, for example, or even like federal level in Russia, or our colleagues from the World Bank who are doing in Russia as well. Very impressive. We have a smaller design, let's say so, but our biggest achievement is to answer our biggest challenge. The challenge is that St. Petersburg is a federal district, like most likely Washington D.C. in the United States. So it's a region itself. It's a city, but it's a region. So the governance system is highly complicated. And in order to do effective participation, citizen participation, effective involvement, you have to do a series of educational lectures and workshops on actually how the city works and how it is governed. And without this, it's very impossible maybe to achieve the goals that we set for us in this program. So basically, in St. Petersburg, it's like it's now 6 districts out of 8 involved in the implementation of PPE. And in each of these districts, there is a like 1-month series of lectures and workshops for citizens, which is all totally open and totally free to access, which they debate there the governance process and the possibilities for citizens to promote their initiatives through the city budget. Then the second challenge is that the historical center of St. Petersburg is a UNESCO heritage site. So it's almost impossible to do something there unless you develop a very complicated project for this. And it's protected by federal law. But you cannot preserve the historical center as it was like in the 18th century or 19th century. You need to improve it. And the people come to us with the ideas of how to improve it. And we help them to get through all of these regulation procedures in order to achieve something which will make the historical center better for living and better like urban environment as it was before compared to 5-10 years ago. I think this is our best achievement, and I think this is like the tough challenge. And I think the Petersburg experience brings here to the world experience something that takes care of urban environment, but in historical urban environment, which is kind of complicated. And I think we achieved a level of efficiency that allow us to promote the citizen initiatives and incorporate them into the city budget and city planning policies, which is, I think, the basis for sustainable development in the future. That's the summary of St. Petersburg experience, and I hope we'll get better with every year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sam. I think we're back a little closer to where we are now. Mr. Ahmed Rifai will share experiences from Indonesia.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have to present Indonesian experience in 5 minutes, but I think it's going to be very limited time. But I share some of the publication outside. I hope that any of you can take it. But some of you who cannot take it, maybe you can just download it from our website that is available at www.participatory.org. So participatory budgeting in Indonesia, I can say that it started from 1999, piloting and sponsored by international agencies in Indonesia, and it's been amazingly actually until 2004. It's actually fostered by the national government to be accepted and regulated nationwide, meaning that all the municipality and cities in Indonesia are actually obliged to implement the participatory budgeting processes. But we did an evaluation experiences of participatory budgeting in Indonesia, but we found that there are many differences of practices of this participatory budgeting in different cities in Indonesia, because the interpretation of the regulation might differ in different context and locality. So we recognize one of the findings that we say that we recognize that the implementation of participatory budgeting in local level, especially in Indonesia and neighborhood level, are quite strong by imposing direct participation in neighborhood level. So there is a very meaningful participation in the neighborhood level by community. They discuss certain portion of the budget in the community level, and they try to kind of propose a project through that budget to kind of improve certain kind of community, to improve certain kind of infrastructure project in the community level. But we can underline also lacking of clear participation mechanism in a high level, like in a city, in the province, and then in the national level. Because participatory budgeting is not merely participation, it is also political process where people try to influence and how to actually try to use and influence the use of the budget in certain level of the administration in Indonesia. Especially in the city, political parties are still quite strong in managing and directing the use of funding, especially once you end up in the legislative discussion. So budgets are still very, like participatory budgeting at that level is quite blurred. Like political parties strong, but community engagement are not yet quite strong. Even in the province level also like that. Even in the national level, we don't know who play there actually. Like maybe it can be some other predator or financial big budget kind of predator, I don't know, but it's still very difficult to understand how actually the operation of the participatory budgeting in the national level. Our research is then we try to codify some information about the different practices in Indonesia. So in legal regulations, for example, in very local, we find very different practices in the local regulation shows there are very kind of adaptive kind of process where local government try to create a local regulation to allow participation happen in the community level. There are many cities who have different regulations. Sorry, and then other, like the level of, like the change also happen in institution level. Who implement it can be varied, and also the level of the participation different and vary from one city to another. Information access, budget allocation, some city bigger, some city very low, and then project funded. Different projects are funded. Some city are focused on infrastructure, some city focus on social project, and another innovation. So I think I can say now the very amazing improvement now is that through village law, PP in Indonesia has been expanded to 74,000 villages with direct funding goes to these villages around $150,000 goes to each of the cities. So there is amazing opportunity to improve the participation in the rural level. So I would like to jump into what is the challenges. So I think one of the challenges of PP experience, PP practices in Indonesia is that there is still a kind of so-called as an elite capture where information are not distributed well. Some certain kind of dominant kind of actor can play more roles in the participation, and then women participants also still lacking. Big monitoring and evaluation process is still long and time consuming, and a small amount of budget. And how can PP experience in your country can relate to Asia? I think one of the underlying is that more budget in PP can strengthen community project, we believe, and how small intervention in the city through participatory process can be improved. PP also powerful tool to foster democratic and inclusive city in Asia and also in other part of the world, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we turn now to our rapporteur to maybe reflect on some of these experiences and how they might influence the future, the trajectory of participatory budgeting for the region.
All right, good afternoon to everybody here. I'd like to share 5 ideas. Yeah. The first is that what we've heard today is the first time it happens. And when you hear massive numbers, 74,000 villages possible, 4,000 only in one Chinese city, thousands in Russia, these are changing. It's not only, it's new, it's changing and it's massive. It's time to look at it. Related to that, we've heard only part of the story. Many couldn't come. We've been trying. The Koreans, it happens normally in most of the cities. It's massive, and there will be a national PV. Made it's very invisible. SDG. And I think is there. That what is interesting about PB, and we heard that, is that it affects many of the goals of the is that one, it reduces the inequalities. When we hear the story about Penang and the gender approach, it reduces inequality. When Maine is telling us about the 4,000 villages in a booming city like Chengdu, one of the booming, and it reduces the gap between rural and urban. Again, very interesting, reducing of inequalities. When we hear the resources in Russia going to the small villages where no money is going in some more province from Siberia, it reduces at national scale. So it's many reduction, which echoes the all making money go to villages, to places which have been long forgotten. And number three, to revert social priorities, to have sectors which are forgotten being in the picture. And I think that this is a very interesting issue. The number three idea is that through these stories, what we realize is that PB is a field of innovation for democracy, and PB is a field of innovation in Asia, a different way to look at budget. Some innovations, and from Russia in particular, are quite interesting. I mean, the work you did is to show that, as in other places in the world, the PB money is not about only budgetary money. It has a triggering effect, and it has a catalytic effort. The value of what you are mobilizing with budget is like 3 times what the public money is doing. It mobilizes citizens' money, city money, private money. This is amazing. And this is new, the use of money. And it ends up with corruption in most cases. So it's not about money. Only on a minimal part, it's not the whole thing, but at least usually it's there. One of the challenges, it has been said to me, are the following. Still, when you divide the money discussed by the number of inhabitants, it is very low in relation to what happened in Latin America. It was 50 times more. The quantity is small. So it values more on the P from participatory than on the P from budget. So it works a little bit, you know, on the strong, yeah. So that's one. More resources are needed. Number two, there is the risk, we heard that, of capture by elites, by capture by central government. And when you have national project, are the people going to have their voice strong enough to resist and to take more power is a big challenge. And what we've heard here is about the best that we can have. That this is a real challenge, the capture by elites. And now, in terms of challenge, the last one in that was why it's so important to have organizations like OEDP, you know, showing us things. And it's an open agenda for all of us. How do you want to connect with Asian peoples? What sort of mechanism could we invent to have the experience from Penang being heard by the one from Korea? Because for those of us who have been involved, these innovations, I have no time to discuss on that, but they are huge. One example, Chengdu. tiny part of what's happening in China. The people in the villages can either decide on the money for their own projects or enter into a development plan to get 7 times the value of the budget to get larger projects, which have been massive to have new roads, etc. So you have very interesting new mechanism, unknown. This is, and now, what we've heard is very unique in the sense that very few PBs are on social housing, where most of the problems are. On social housing, rental housing. It exists in Toronto, but in Asia, it's very interesting. And your interest in having that in China on the courtyard housing, to have that on the courtyard housing in China is quite interesting. These are new spheres of PB. It's not local government, but it's social housing. What's happening there? And we know that this is where the poor people are, rental people, etc. So this is also another field that should be worked out. These are examples, but let's brainstorm. There will be 2 other sessions in relation to this one. On Sunday at 5, there will be another networking session. You are most invited. And there is another session of training of 3 hours where various of the participants here and more will work on engendering participation, which is, for many of us, a big issue of women's power through participatory budgeting. There are some experiences that are very minimal. And what has been achieved in Europe, in Latin America, Africa, we haven't been able to change the gender pattern through PB. It has been very limited. So there is a hope there, and we need to learn, men and women, learning from each other to change that. This is a major challenge that will be expressed at that time. So that will, I mean, it's very difficult in 5 minutes to say, significant things after listening to all of them. And I insist, I'm learning every day more. We need to reflect together. What are the next steps that we want to be? Is it a tool or is it just a new governance tool to soften inequality? Or is it, as it was said in Porto Alegre, power to the people, which would be deepening democracy? And one thing is governance, another one is deepening democracy and change power relations. And this is a tension where we are, and it depends on us. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise, for helping us connect the dots. I'm kind of inspired by your shirt. We now have 10 minutes. I'd like to ask you, the audience, if you have any questions you'd like to ask our rapporteur. You could say your name and where you're.
I'm Mustafa from the University of Malaysia, US. I have a question, but I'm not sure this question can be answered in this session. Maybe I should have another session, learn more. Just want to know, based on your experiences, what's the relationship between participatory planning and budgeting? Because when we are saying participatory budgeting, we are talking about allocation of money. Okay? But before that, I think we need participatory planning. That we define the program and project based on some. So, what's the relationship between these?
Okay. I'm going to like to collect a few questions, and we'll do a few rounds. Any other questions? Did that question go to anyone in particular? Or?
Yes, no, one question there.
Okay.
One question. Okay.
Can you go to
Where's the
Just come.
Hi, my name is Amara Stevens. I work for JSI and I'm still different USAID funded projects. Most recently working mostly on nutrition financing, attractive financing down to the district level. And I think one of the things I wonder about for participatory budgeting is we talk a lot about completion. Well, what comes out of this? What kind of data is coming out of this, and how is it being fed back to those who helped you create these budgets? So I just wondered if there's a step further beyond the process of inclusion that can actually produce information that can then help track priorities like nutrition or health or housing for those populations.
Okay, thank you. Yes, and I see if you could come to the mic.
My name is Adi from South Africa, Cape Town. South Africa was recently rated to be the most second most transparent country in terms of budgeting, but in terms of budget participation was rated probably the lowest. So I guess the question has been that when the budget is issued in South Africa, it's like a 600-page document and you can kind of sift through it, but you don't have access to the spreadsheets, you can't work with it, you can't actually comment on it because you have to sift through just too much data. And for citizens to be able to do that is quite difficult. So there's a lot of legislation around participation in budgeting processes, but it doesn't materialize. It becomes a tick box exercise. I'm kind of wondering from the panelists if there's some experiences about how you safeguard the participation process and how do you ensure that those similar to what you asked earlier, like how do you take that particular process forward to action?
Thank you. Okay. Who would like to start?
I'll just start with participatory planning, just maybe to leave the floor to other questions as well, because maybe I have some experience in this and I would love to share it. They are basically two sides of one coin. So you cannot do participatory planning efficient enough without knowing the budgeting system. You cannot do participatory budgeting, especially in complex projects, without the planning of it. Because if we are developing, for example, like an environment, an urban environment, a public space, with the citizens, we have to plan it according to what's like what the architects think or what the urbanists think of how it should be developed. So the expertise from them is required to be transferred to the citizens, and the citizens make decisions based on this expertise and they gain expertise in the process. But they cannot do it without budgeting it, because otherwise they will, invent something which is totally undoable in terms of budgeting. So that's why I think, for example, this is like the best way to do it, is to unite, to do these processes and make two sides of it going together. That's what we're doing in St. Petersburg now, for example, because we're about to develop like a complex public space, and you have to invite like the architects and the urbanists and the people who actually know how to do this, and then you have to invite the people who know the budgeting side, and then all of them should educate the citizens on how to do it. And that's maybe the most effective way to achieve the thing.
Any other comments from the panelists?
I would address the issue around planning and budgeting. In the Indonesian discourse, I think, around planning and budgeting, there has been a discussion about whether there is a spirit mechanism of aligning planning and budgeting in our system. And now, with the current regulation, actually, there is no separation of planning and budgeting. But still in the operation, the different departments are actually responsible for different sections of it. Also in the operationalization of PB itself on the ground, we are discussing about whether we should start with the budget and then plan it, or we should start with the planning and then budget will follow, something like that. So this kind of discussion in our kind of local participatory budgeting, because say for example when the city government stated, oh, you one neighborhood you will get this amount of money, and then you plan it. Or we discuss the planning first and the city will allocate a budget for you. There's kind of also discussion about planning and budgeting still occurrence in our kind of practices of participatory budgeting. So I think it's a very dynamic in terms of how you see a point of view of planning and budgeting. Thank you.
I think it's not enough to say, let's bridge planning and PD. It depends on the type of planning. If the planning hasn't been a participatory planning, just a technocratic process, then what we see is that participatory budgeting is a way to go against the planning system and to show its limits. And then the planners, they have to change and integrate. And we are seeing it. It doesn't correspond. But if the planning was participatory, then it's a whole different game, because people are participating. Sometimes, and this is interesting, you have various experiences where the people can participate not on the long citywide strategy, but at neighborhood level, which is a good start. So my second observation is which level of planning? It would preserve that the city is built also with neighborhoods, and we concentrate, like some cities are doing, on neighborhood planning. It's very interesting. If the planning was too technocratic, well, no problem, let's change it. That's important. The other tendency, which bridges planning and budgeting, is that some PBs, they are not 1 year PB. They are multi-years budgetary planning. You see, in order not to go on 1 year, some are every 2 years, others are planning for 3 or 5 years, and then you can more easily bridge the two. But it's an open issue. On the other question on information, this is central. If the little money we said is very low in relation to what we spend, it's not well exposed, well presented to people, saying, hey, your money has been used for that people don't want to participate too much. So this is essential. But I would like here to insist on one experience, and you've published on that, I think on the Muslim Bank in the country, and your solo experience and what you've done, really, I mean, Praktika has been doing fabulous, and you were there also. I call the mini atlas. Because one thing is that you have information coming from the top, technocrats which come half a day and make a big survey, and then they know everything about the city. And I know too many of my students which are doing that and thinking that they know something. It's not really true. So the way you map, when it's with participation, with mini atlas, makes people aware, and you put that of your innovation, and they know exactly their neighborhood. And the projects they do are different. And then the information that is got through PB help them to change their views on the neighborhood or on the city. So this notion of mini atlas, a real innovation from Asia, I would say, truly, it's very interesting. It makes data different. You don't speak about the same data. You speak about people's related information, about their way of life, which is at the center. And then the planners start to see also the neighborhoods differently. So this building of data as a collective exercise, community-based, changes a lot the relation. And I think it's an essential lesson, at least from what I learned from Indonesia, is that probably you might expand on that at a point in time.
I'd like to collect just one last round of questions and then invite everybody to give some closing statements. Okay? 1, 2. Please.
I'm from Gwangju, South Korea. I wonder whether there is any negative effect of participatory budgeting. For example, some strong interest groups can manipulate the money. And then, in my country, so we have some negative perception on those groups who are very active in with the government budget. There are more questions, but
we had one more back here. Yes, if you could come forward.
Hi, my name is Manohar. I'm representing as a member of private sector network of UNGJAM. My query is, well, participatory budgeting, we have been hearing it since 1989. And we have heard like around 45 countries and above have implemented it. Well, the panel has discussed on the advantages of participatory budgeting. Are there any disadvantages?
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to go through the panel. A very quick last thought, and if you can respond to those questions and also give some kind of statement about from your perspective.
Okay, maybe I tackle that question in terms of the time for participatory budgeting. In the sense that, in the sense of gender matters, because on the ground also we have to realize there's the structures and hierarchy and discrimination. So that's why the Penang model is the combination of top-down and bottom-up, where we meet in the middle. So the process is the top-down to make sure there's a representation of the different groups in the community when you do participatory budgeting, and to make sure gender mainstreaming is happening on the ground, and also to push the structure shift on the ground in terms of gender, and also class, ethnicities, status, and all that. So I think we have to bear in mind that the process itself, it's so open. It's sometimes can result of some discrimination. So what I'm saying is that's why in Penang we combine both top down and bottom up. In Penang, we are now moving from the local government level to the state level, where now we are talking to have a gender responsive and participatory governance, where budgeting is the heart of the process. So we are in the process of drafting it, and hopefully by this year we're going to have it. And hopefully, the things about PB process on the ground with community, we can be so creative in so many ways of doing participatory with community. So that's the beauty of it. And we hope, and also I like the idea to have like the hub for the Asia Pacific region, where we can have a platform to share our experience and to be creative and to learn from each other and share our experience in our own country and state. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharissa. What is the advantages of participatory budgeting? I think sometimes it makes it more complicated. We have a system of the representation, decision making, monitoring, auditing, and a system of everything. And sometimes we need PB, another system to correct some of the what we couldn't achieve with all the other systems we have. But I think the most important thing is that this process, and to achieve that, I should say, the most important thing is to respect local people, citizens' wisdom, allowing them spaces for their own experiences, for their own innovations, for better well-being, better public services.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think as a final idea after the question, I think it's very important, like local governments don't have to have fear to innovate, to give power to the people. I think it's very important also to evaluate all these policies, because sometimes we are like starting processes, but we don't, I think it's very important to evaluate, to change if it's something that doesn't work. And as Sharissa, I think it's very important, I think, to have those spaces, those moments, those platforms to share experiences, no? Because sometimes in one city we're starting one process, and maybe they're facing some problems or some situation, and maybe there's another place in another country that they have also the same situation, the same problems. So it's very important, I think, these measures to share the information and to be all together, like to think in new ways to governance with democratic values.
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure for me to hear your ideas about the budgeting part of participation. It's I think it's maybe it's now it's absolutely it's independent part, maybe independent part where we are now collecting ideas and new approach to how budgeting will to take the opportunities for people on the level of communities. And now we are talking about a new paradigm of budgeting development. The old paradigm, based on the approach where 1,000 projects move from up to down. And now we are talking about thousands and dozens of thousands micro projects move from community level, move from down to up, and collecting and the new budget with collecting on the base of ideas and choices most people in community level.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
I would like to unite these two questions because they're very important for PB development. We have 30 years of PB experience in the world right now, And PBE remains, this biggest disadvantage of PBE, that it remains fragile, it remains institutionally unprotected. That's why when it becomes too political, it gets cancelled sometimes, or just completely abandoned in certain cases. That's why in Brazil, for example, the country origin of participatory budgeting, many PBs in the cities of Brazil actually were cancelled because of political decisions. So as a mayor, you can come there and say, well, I don't like PB, I don't like the citizen involvement. But in several years, that's the thing, because there are no, in most cases there are no laws. In most cases there are not like institutional structure that protects it from these kind of random decisions made by politicians. And that's the biggest disadvantage that we have now. And I hope we'll work to achieve some kind of progress in this area. Thank you very much.
I think I would like to underline in other ways what he's saying. So in Indonesia, for example, they experience the political actual system already kind of justify the regulations of participatory budgeting. But I think the more important thing now, how to give the meaning to the participation itself happening through this institutionalized participatory budgeting. There are also called manipulation of participatory budgeting. Even we call participatory budgeting, but it's not participatory at all. So, for example, in many cities, the government only supply for the legal participation. We are participating because we already invite people to come. But what is the meaning of the participation itself? There, it's not that really clear, explain. So I think what is really important next time is that how we really feel the opportunity. So I said in Indonesia there is a big opportunity, but now need a push, especially for civil society, the meaning to this participation. Whether this is to push more kind of information for people to use the platform of this PPP to be able to claim their right and improve the network. Thank you very much.
I would like to comment back. One is for PBs to not be too volatile and too fragile. It needs, as we saw here, Association of Women from Penang, Pizzi Center, an NGO, academic from the university, Kota Indonesia, etc. So it has to be, if the civil society isn't there, not strong, it will be fragilized. And number two is that another story is the capacity of the same association in Penang now to work with the central government or to the regional state. The incredible work of Ming in China to be able to maintain links on participation, on people's power in China, when you know that an NGO can be cancelled in 1 year, you don't get your permission, you're forgotten, if not more. This is a very, very strong capacity. The alliance between you guys in Russia, and your role in having secured the capacity also to have these fields of experimentation is basic. Kota, if you look at the relation with the mayor of Solo, who is now the president of Indonesia, without this relation, it wouldn't have happened. So this building of alliance from a civil society perspective is very essential. And if it doesn't exist, it's fragilized and it's volatile. So that's number one. Number two, if there is no budget literacy, the sign that for learning how to write, we need budget literacy and education. Because what I observed over the 30 years is that the budgets, which are, even if when they stop, they start again if people have been empowered. And not socially, but also on budget literacy. So, and it's another element. I would like to conclude with Korea, which for me is a very interesting case from what you said. Number one is an example of probably a civil society network of activists, which is exemplary in Asia. I don't know any other, but they are not here and they don't speak English.
Yeah.
And what is very interesting from what you said is that every year, this network are qualifying the budget, the good ones and the bad ones. And they have a look from a civil society of what is good. And you know what? With the national, they just wrote us some letters. What is very interesting is that based on the Seoul model, where the mayor was an activist, now there will be a national budget taking this model. And who has been pushing and advocating is the network, not an NGO, too weak, too small. So this necessity, if you want to make serious changes, is the necessity to have networks of civil society to push one way further the agenda and really control money and public money and not projects or programs. Thank you.
It's been a great honor and pleasure for Kotakita to host this international reflection and dialogue on the past, present, and future of participatory budgeting. I'd like to thank our panelists, our rapporteur, and to all of you for sharing with us. Thank you.
Let's announce.
Yeah, can we?